and you know, ask what are your next steps towards your ethical fashion goals. If you could name one step that you're going to implement, you know, whether it's towards more ethical or sustainable fashion in these areas.
Personal goal or for what we...
It could be either personal or professional.
Sound issues. I think just to speak on that subject, so I've got loads of goals, but on that subject, on the idea of feminism and fashion, but also on diversity, I think that we as an industry have a lot of work to do when it comes to trying to understand how the system works and not shying away from the conversations that are uncomfortable for us to have about privilege and about exactly how the system works and why the system is unfair. You know, I don't think that many of us like to have uncomfortable conversations with ourselves and with each other, but we need to have that. And I guess Kirsten and I talked about this before we began, but there's been a few, not very many, but a few little stories out there, mostly in American media, about is ethical and sustainable fashion a white girl's privilege? That's an uncomfortable conversation for me to have as a privileged white girl, and I know that it's actually something we need to be addressing. Because why is it that we're still overwhelmingly looking at skinny, white, rich girls as models? Why are we still listening to skinny, white, rich girls write about all this stuff? We need to really, really broaden and become way more inclusive in our conversations and in our representation. And we need to shut up and listen, so I'm done.
One thing that I have been thinking about is that fair trade, ethical, sustainable, they're three different things, and they don't go hand in hand. People think that they do. Something that is fair trade is not always sustainable. Like I think of Oxfam in a way, like Clare, help me. Like a fair trade product that it was Etico, or but recycled fish.
G-Star roll? The jeans?
No. I mean, like fair trade products aren't always made in a sustainable way. Yes, they're not environmentally friendly, and sustainable products are not always made ethically or in a fair trade way. They all should be hand in hand, but they're not. And I think that consumers don't realise this, and this is something that,
There's a lot of fair trade coffee on shelves.
Yes, but it's only something, for most other products, people don't give a shit basically, but it's coffee, tea and rice, chocolate, the things that matter to us every day, those sorts of products. But back to what Claire was saying, I keep forgetting the question about...
what are you going to focus on next for your sustainability?
When I look around, I see so much stuff in the world, unnecessary. That's why I don't go shopping anymore now. So waste is my interest. You know, Claire was talking about rummaging. I'm rummaging food bins and food waste. Yes.
Visuals.
Yes. Visuals. Yes. And what can I get out of this colour? So food waste. I mean, it's something that I've always done, but now it's on a bigger scale. The other thing is, yes, about education and educating the public. Like sitting here in this room, I'd say that most people are middle class, and it's the people at the bottom who we really need to get to make change. So that's another problem, I think, in terms of ethical and sustainable, because they can't afford to buy a white t-shirt or a t-shirt that's made in a sustainable because they are really expensive. And so they are the ones who shop in fast fashion, and it's also a way of feeling that you belong as well. That's what fashion does. So yeah, that's another challenge of our target market or our target audience. Who are they? And yes, you, but also
inclusive fashion. And I invite anyone who has got their phone on them to follow everyone on this panel before we get our last speakers. Mrs. Press, we've got Samorn Sanixay, and I'm mentioning this because Samorn's feed is full of her food scraps that she's turning into natural dyes. It's just the most incredible fashion. You can listen to Claire's beautiful podcast, see some great links there. Amazing. And what are your next steps?
As I mentioned, I need to be more educated and more informed, and in doing so, I'm not sure how I'm going to do that, because I do read everything and I do consume everything, but I actually still feel really confused. But I'm going to put more of my energy into that direction, and in doing so, as a manager, as somebody who leads teams and is influential within companies, that I'm going to be in a position to pass that on with more confidence, and that will have a continuing influence. On another level, I have some other goals. I think, you know, when I'm involved in casting and campaigns and marketing and this sort of stuff, I do think that Australia has fallen really behind in diversity. It's pretty close to my heart. What else? I also wanted to mention that when we talk about the fact that fashion is 80% labour force is women, and even though I'm a very white, privileged woman, I would say that throughout my career, I've not been credited either for my contribution to fashion, and that is a problem with the industry at large. As a creative industry, it's the only industry that gets away with not crediting the other creatives that are involved, or anyone that's involved actually. That includes the designers, the machinists, the pattern makers, everybody who's involved. And I mean, you can work on a film set and be the person who goes and gets the water, and you've got a credit in that film. I don't really understand that. So when we're talking about transparency, we're talking about transparency of supply chains and stuff like that, I'd like to, a personal mission of mine would be to just reduce some of the ego in fashion about, you know, the person who's at the front of the brand being, you know, the brains and the talent and how do they manage to be also the craftsperson and all of these other things. It's just personally pissed me off for a long time. So I'm going to also make changes there everywhere I can, because that it is actually about crediting each other, and I think that should hopefully trickle all the way down to, you know, the people that weave, because I'm fascinated by those people, you know, so hopefully I can share that with you in the future.
Yes. Oh, this is I have to just stick with what I'm doing, and I wish we did have more time, because the whole white privilege and class privilege thing is something very, it's controversial, sure, but I do believe that ethical fashion, that the crusade is white privilege, sorry. It's a brown and black and Asian cultures are not given the privilege of making the mistakes. We're immediately asked, so where do you make it, who makes this, and how are these people treated? And which is fair enough, yes, we should be asked, but it's instead of nurturing the industries within, we're always just seen as the producers, as the manufacturers, instead of the actual creators and designers, and that is a real challenge for me to try and change. I'm going to just make this personal. Whatever. Well, not that personal, but I'm just saying that in the challenge, I have made it as a personal challenge to only wear recycled clothing, which is very difficult when I see Romance Was Born's collection. I'm like, I did buy. But then I also champion Australian brands, particularly those who are really, who try, and everyone tries. I really, from what I know, is people really want to do the right thing. It's just not always easy. It's not cheap. Designers, you know, you have to go offshore because it is virtually impossible. I mean, reading one of your articles, Claire, about Bianca, spender. I mean, how she will have to think ahead in the future when her makers or tailors or whatever, they get old. Who takes over? What's going to happen? People now do not. Why is manufacturing a brown, black, Asian thing? That's my issue. But okay, going back to the personal thing, I've got to stop contributing to op shops because I buy op shops, but it's become a continuous thing where, and then I'm still contributing to landfill, aren't I? So that's my personal challenge. Also, a challenge that I've taken is to try and make people stop using clothing as validation. Because I don't quite understand why we have to have fashion weeks and the designers, why do we have to have so many collections per year? I mean, surely that is completely against the grain of sustainability. I mean, why does an ethical designer have to have 4 collections per year? That's all these questions. So we don't have enough time. And I'm just like, so these are challenges and the validation and myself and personally, and questioning my hypocrisy about things. I would love to be ethically dressed, but I dress like a rainbow vomited on me, so that means I can't always champion the designers who do just work with very natural dyes and materials, because I don't do grey. Red is my neutral. So there's all those things. So that way I use op shops and recycling and vintage clothing and shopping my own wardrobe, although I have to say I can no longer fit into some of the things I did back in the 80s, which is really annoying. Or the 90s, because I still have pieces from Tom Ford's first big, great Gucci collections. They're really annoying. But they last, and I'm not sure if things can last. Even things that people, make now for future, but how long then? Then what's going to happen to that? As you're saying, we no longer have anywhere to throw out rubbish because we rely on other people to dispose of our guilt. I don't know. So my personal challenge is trying to articulate. I'm not sure.
Stop shopping.
Well, that's also for me in Fiji and Pacific Island countries. That shopping is actually the cycle of renewal and manufacture. So again, with that, it's like we urge people in the Pacific to shop locally and buy your designers. Oh gosh, so it's two worlds. It's here be ethical, there consume. Oh my gosh, so we consume ethically. So again, there's challenges there. But I'm sure as we all get to a point, we will. Thank you for listening.
And have we